saying that I will invest $100,000 in every startup that will come, I can guarantee you none of you would have had seats. So this is the agenda that we have to talk. What is more important? Is it money, or is it the platform called Earth where we can create more money? Yeah? So that's what I have planned for today, to give you a quick insight into who we are. Seedstars is a venture capital organization. We invest in early stage startups across emerging markets. We work in over 90 countries across the world. We have invested in over 150 companies. We manage 8 venture capital funds, totaling to more than $300 to $400 million in assets under management. And we are not impact investors. We are very traditional venture capital investors, like your Sequoia, like all the others that you know. We are very similar to them. So why am I here talking about impact investments? So at Seedstars, when we started working, we realized very quickly, okay, I don't see it on my screen. Okay. So when we started out, we are an organization which is based in Switzerland, in Geneva. Yeah? Am I audible over that side? Okay, good. Because it's marketing madness and they will always be louder than the sustainability guys, yeah? But it has to change slowly. So we'll try and do that. So when we started out, we realized that we were a bunch of entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs who sold our businesses, and we wanted to invest in more companies. So what's the best way to invest in companies? Is obviously to identify good companies and try and invest in them, right? But that's always the challenge, to identify good companies. Because good companies are created by good entrepreneurs. So we started saying, how can we create good entrepreneurs so that we can invest in them, which will create profitable businesses, and we make more money. In the process of doing this, we realized that a lot of the good entrepreneurs that we wanted to support were actually doing something for their community. They were doing something for the planet. They were either trying to stop flooding, which I'm not born and brought up in Kerala. My parents are from Kerala. I am born and brought up in Bangalore, lived in Denmark for a large part of my life. Started learning Malayalam just recently, watching all the wonderful movies. But constantly, every single thing that kept coming up on my feed when I thought about Kerala was flooding, landslides, flooding, landslides, flooding, landslides. And it's been over the past continuous years, past few years, we have seen a whole bunch of it. Let's not even bring Nipah into the mix, right? So as a community and as a state, you've been seeing the impacts of issues around sustainability and environmental change. So for us, when we started looking at companies, we said we want to prioritize companies that make a profit. There's nothing wrong in making a profit. We said we want to back companies that create a profit, but at the same time can create an impact on people, communities, and societies, right? So that's what we do at Seedstars. So for us, I'm going to skip through a few of these slides because you already know a lot of this, right? You know the fact that a lot of people within emerging markets like ourselves are facing issues with poverty, with hunger, with environmental change, climate action. The entire gamut of the SDGs are here. These are all our real issues that we're facing right now. But also there is an issue in gaining quality jobs. Now, the problem, I used to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark. So I was a diplomat posted into India. I was working with the government, working with businesses to try and explore what can be done in this ecosystem. And often the problem is in India, we always romanticize IT. We always romanticize startups, and we overtly focus on them. So the idea is, yes, India has a robust employment market. Is that true or false? How many of you think it's true? Raise your hands. How many of you think it's false? Raise your hands. Okay, so there's a big section that has no opinion, right? I'll tell you what my piece of opinion is here. And it's a little bit of controversial opinion. I don't believe it's a very strong market yet. Potential, absolutely. No denying it, right? We're looking at the employment market through a lens. And we're saying that is the biggest market. The unemployment in India, Southeast Asia is massive still. In emerging markets, it's very, very large. So there's a huge lack of quality jobs. What do I mean by quality jobs? Something that can help you earn more than at least $50 to $100 a day. That's what you need to be reaching, right? You need to get to that point where we're still earning $12 lesser and even lower than that in many parts of India. So we also realize that not every company creates a lot of jobs. We've seen that there are 3 different kinds of companies you can think about. High growth companies, niche and dynamic ventures, and livelihood ventures. Livelihood ventures, if I may, it's like your tattakada around the corner, right? Your small mom and pop stores around the corner, that's your livelihood ventures. Niche and dynamic, I would say the niche and dynamic ventures are ventures that you see around this conference. High growth ventures are your tech-enabled, highly scalable, investment-ready kind of companies. And it's those kind of companies that are able to create 50% of jobs in every market that we have observed. So what's the goal? The goal is to try and bring these kind of companies into the fore to help the livelihood sustaining businesses become a tech-enabled business. Swiggy, Zomato, great platform to enable your average tattakada, your chai kada, and all these people who do not have access to customers to suddenly get a larger reach. They're augmenting it with technology, right? Now, why am I talking about all of this when it comes to sustainability? Is because the more you kind of bring tech enablement into companies, you're able to start tackling topics such as financial services, health, agriculture, education, climate mitigation, so on and so forth, right? So, and that's what we need to be looking. And every market requires an ecosystem. We don't believe it's important to only invest in companies. We want to support by creating an ecosystem, but every ecosystem is different. You have 3 different kinds of ecosystems: the mature, advancing, and nascent. India is almost borderline mature advancing, right? Israel is up top. If you talk Bangladesh, in the nascent stages. Fiji, all these countries right down below. And every ecosystem we support the companies in those ecosystems with different kinds of services, right? So we help them with capital, we invest in companies, we will help them with building out narratives about why investments would flow into those regions. We help them with understanding what kind of support is required. And we build towards academies where we teach people how to become entrepreneurs, right? So we've got a team of over across 30 countries, and this is where my real talk begins. All this while I was trying to help you understand the importance of why investors should be looking into high growth companies and why we as investors are looking into high growth companies. This is one of my most favorite picture when I think about sustainability and the current narrative today, right? We're all living in a bubble. I was speaking to some of the organizers here and I also asked this, and I was asking them, next time when huddle happens, sustainability should be a main stage event, not a side stage event, right? Sustainability and sustainability entrepreneurs should not be seen as climate warriors, or they're trying to do good, or they're just doing because they have a conscience. Whereas the rest of them who are in e-commerce or digital marketing, that's what all the kids want to do these days, right? Everybody wants to join a fast-growing startup. Everybody wants to raise capital fast enough. But what we forget is, and interestingly, a cab driver told me this yesterday, at the end of the day when we die, no matter what we gather, we leave behind. The question that you need to ask yourselves is, what do you want to leave behind? You want to be able to leave behind a sustainable planet, something for people to continue to live on. So That is the bubble that we need to come out of. Just to give you some insight, I was traveling the last couple of weeks. So Denmark to Philippines, Philippines to Cambodia, Cambodia to India. Now I go back after India, I go into Africa and other countries beyond that. Everywhere that I'm going, the number one thing I'm noticing is extreme heat waves. And I'm from Bangalore, right? Bangalore was called the pensioners' paradise. Many of the people from Kerala are in Bangalore, so I know that. And Bangalore was always beautiful weather, 25 to 30 degrees throughout the entire year. It won't go above. If it goes below, only December. Now, in February, we are touching 40. May, April, 46. Let's not even talk about Delhi here. Okay? This is it, just talking Bangalore. In Kerala, with the humidity, this is even higher. You're going to see this go up even higher. And this is not just the case in India, across the world. Consequence of that, rising sea levels. Properties in Cochin are selling at a premium right now, seafront properties, right? There was an interesting research released a few years before that many parts of Cochin would be lost because of rising seafronts. New York would be underwater. San Francisco would be underwater. Fiji, we're already seeing people leaving many islands and moving to the mainland. They're leaving properties. They're not able to continue to live in more houses. So you're going to see seafronts rising, but a consequence of that is also economic loss. People lose businesses. People lose lives. There's going to be health epidemics, food shortage, loss of land, loss of property. All of this will only catapult. You will see forced migration of people because of climate change issues. And you still have governments across the world that are calling climate change a hoax. That don't believe in climate change and are saying it is something that is made by the cabal, it's something that rich people are trying to profit out of. If people wanted to see climate change, I think they need to talk to people like us who are living in these scenarios. Now, when you think about climate change, often the question is asked, and that's what was also seen here, right? Climate change discussions are not sexy. Climate change discussions don't draw a lot of capital in. How many investors are there in this room? Anybody raise your hand? Nice. So, only investor in the room. Shows a mindset, right? And I'm not blaming them for it, because the people who invest or give their own money to investors, they have given mandates. They have said, we want more money. Here is 100 crores, here is 1,000 crores. Take this, in 7 years, give me back 12 to 15%. Plain and simple. What will an investor do? He has to find the right way to do this. He or she has to do this. Because you want more than a bank FD, more than a bank return, beat the market returns, at the same time, try and take on as less risk as possible. This is the scenario right now. This is exactly the mindset of the global investment landscape. 0.9% is what is invested into impact investing. How many of you know what impact investing is? Good. I mean, there's no shame in raising your hand. Please go ahead and raise it. So, impact investment is when you invest in companies that have both profit, at the same time are able to create an impact on the community of people they serve. Right? Every company can spin a story that they're an impact investment company or impact company. Swiggy, for instance, can call itself an impact company, yes or no? Yes? Why? Because they're providing jobs to, they can say, X amount of people who did not have jobs before. They're employing women. They're using electric scooters to deliver, saving the climate, reducing carbon. They're able to decrease on food shortages. So you can always build a narrative, right? But that narrative also is not attractive to a lot of investors. But it is getting there. So out of the 0.9% that is going into impact investment, only 0.1% of that 0.9% is put into Asia. How many of you know I mean, I'll actually put up the answer here itself. I was going to ask how many of you know what the amount of dollars we need for Asia Pacific. It's $1.5 trillion per year that we need to combat anything with regard to climate change in Asia. And we are falling massively short of this. We right now have the investment less than, it's around 12.2 billion, that's all we have. Now, with this 12.2 billion, 93% of that is coming from large institutions. And only 7% is coming from private investors. Now, the reason why I'm trying to give you all this information is to help you understand that if you're an impact investor or an impact entrepreneur, when you go to an investor, this is where you are in their minds. You're part of the 7% of the 0.1% of the 8% of their investments, right? So you need to be able to sell the story in better. So we've talked about what impact investing is. In terms of the countries that are trying to push on impact investments, these countries right now are South Korea, Japan, China, India, ASEAN, at least that's what we're seeing. And India is a great example of this. Because in India, you have the Atal mission, Atal Innovation Mission that went on. You have the Social Stock Exchange, which is coming up, the Samriddhi Fund, which is coming up. All of these avenues are giving out funds and support in countries for impact investing. Now, always when we think about impact investing, we think it across 7 different sectors, and I will show them and I'll walk them through you. Right? You can take a screenshot or a photo of this. It's useful when you start thinking about what are investors looking for when you think about impact investing. So the first 4 sectors are clean energy and climate. You've got sustainable agriculture and food systems, green transportation, urban development, water and sanitation. You've got natural capital and biodiversity, circular economy, and financial inclusion and social equity. So often when I show this, people are saying, what's left? I basically covered everything, correct, in terms of it. But it's about the subsectors that you really need to think about. So impact investors, when we were talking to a lot of our partners across the world in impact investing, when you talk about clean energy and climate action, they said that the 6 areas that you have here, renewable energy, energy storage solutions, green hydrogen, energy efficiency technologies, carbon capture and storage, and climate adaptation technologies. These 6 sectors are subsectors around climate change are the ones that are gathering the most amount of investment. So if any of you have a company that is addressing any of these areas, you stand a stronger chance. Either pivot to these to raise more funding, if you're in the same line, or build out a narrative to identify investors who are putting in money in these sectors. Okay? Now, last 6 months ago, I was in Cochin again. I was working with the Cochin shipyard, trying to see how are they building energy efficient ships. And I was at the mayor's office and they told me about the renewable energy transportation system that has come out in the water metro that you have. A very interesting concept. You have a water metro, you have that connecting to energy efficient transportation methodologies. So it's an entire urban mapping trend that is built up, right? But what they're now trying to do is build clean energy storage devices that will help these transportation modalities be able to access those fuels. It could either be better batteries, it could be green fuels. So you're seeing innovation happening in these sectors right around your backyard, right? There are innovators I've met in Kerala who are helping fishermen in Alapura convert their boats into electric boats. Low cost, right? High impact. You've all known about the concept of converting wood stoves into energy efficient stoves. That's happening across. Where my grandmother's house was in Alapura, I knew a lot of my neighbors who used to still use the firewood stoves, right? And when they started using regular LPG and gas prices went up, there was a very quick movement to buy electric stoves. A young entrepreneur from college who started a small business in Alapura, what he did was he said, if you buy solar energy panels from me and you pay for 3 months of a 12-month EMI, you pay 3 months, you will get a free electric stove. If you pay those EMIs continuously for 8 months without defaulting, you will unlock energy efficient bulbs. If you then complete the payment of those 12 months, whatever you have taken, the stove, the bulb, that is free of cost. You don't have to pay back. This is just a small example of how people are thinking about energy efficiency and converting it into a profitable business. You don't have to be a super high-tech company to be able to do this. Yes, he does leverage technology. He's able to create it. And recently he raised $200,000. That's a big amount, yeah? $200,000 because we introduced him to a few impact investors. So it's very important to start thinking about the community that he serves. So the difference that he made was he was able to tell us very clearly how many women benefited from having electric stoves. How did their health improve? How did they use the money they saved to send more children to school? How did they bring themselves out of poverty? How they inculcated financial due diligence and financial payback methodologies into their own ecosystem. So you see the impact measurement and impact communication was very, very important. Right? Now when you think about sustainable agriculture and food systems, again here you have 3 main sectors that are gathering a lot of the investments. Precision agriculture, sustainable food systems, regenerative farming. Rice is a very big crop in Kerala, correct? Water heavy. How can that be made better? Right? How can you help farmers use less pesticides? That again is being invested into massively across the world. Organizations like Pepsi are coming and are asking for solutions like these because they are gathering potatoes from across the world for their Lay's brands. In that process, they see that their farmers are spending a lot of money on pesticides. And more importantly, Pepsi is responsible to the globe when it comes to say, are they sourcing organic potatoes? So how do they ensure that the farmer that they're giving the contract to is giving organic potatoes or is using less pesticide on the crops? This is where precision agriculture comes into play. Right? So each of these subsectors that you have has massive, massive potential to be able to get you investments. So if you're in any of these sectors, be happy because investors are looking for these kind of solutions. You need to be able to help them understand what is the value add you're bringing into the table. Right? And be able to clearly communicate this. So when you think about impact investing and what's next, right? I told you earlier in the few slides that only 0.1% or 0.9% of the overall investment market goes towards impact investing. And of that, only 0.1% is coming to Asia Pacific. The good news is that 43% of the investors globally have already decided from 2025 onwards to allocate more capital towards this sector. What does that mean? There is more investments waiting to be made into the sustainability sector. Right? Example here. I recently came across a case of a startup in Germany that made dried leaf sustainable vessels, food containers, biodegradable, sustainable, food waste recycled food containers. Do you know where I first saw that solution before? Kerala. Right? If you go to the temples in Kerala, In Karnataka also we have the same thing. You remember when you get the prasadam, you get it in one small, I don't know what you call it here, but it's a dried leaf vessel. Exact same thing, being made in Germany, raised $1.4 million, onwards to raise $3.8 million 2 years ago. And furthermore, they're now pitching for another $27 million. Why did nobody think from India to do that? I mean, we've always been doing that, right? We've always been creating these kind of devices and these kind of solutions. We've just not learned how to market them. We have not learned how to talk to the right kind of people to do this. You have an interesting startup right here, right? That is also in the emerging eco brand. I can see that they're also making containers based out of food waste and upcycled, recycled waste. The problem we are seeing is today in India, a lot of people are focused of talking to only investors in India, right? You have a small set of impact investors in India. If you take this EcoLeaf branding company that was in Germany, you went to a regular investor, you think you would have raised investments? No. They would just say, sorry, this is not our priority. We are not in the business of saving the planet. We're in the business of making money. And we want to do that. The reason why they succeeded in Germany is because Europe has a lot more of impact investors. So the first thing you need to understand is if you're in the sustainability business, talk to the right kind of investors, and they may not be in India. So connect with networks that can give you access to impact investors across the globe. Reach out to them through LinkedIn, reach out to them through other platforms to be able to raise awareness about your products and your solutions. Talk to us. We invest, right? So if you have an interesting solution, come to us. If we can't invest in you, we will connect you with other investors who can. At the end of the day, we want to see these impact investments being made. Second thing, what you have to understand is that with AI coming in, all industries are changing, including impact sectors. So if you're not able to showcase and adopt AI into your business, even though it is an impact enterprise, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because we've seen that over 61% of all sustainability and impact startups are already using AI. Now, when you can ask me, how do you use AI? Just take a look at this. If you take, for instance, the precision agriculture that I talked about in sustainable agriculture, right? What if you could use AI to use satellite data to zoom in on a piece of land, zoom in on a particular leaf on a plant, use AI and machine learning and LLMs to identify the kind of damage that is there on the leaf, associate that with the kind of pest or worm that causes it, and help you identify a zone where this infestation has happened. Can be done, has been done, is available right now. So for anybody who thinks that this is just a lofty dream, no. It's there right now. It is being implemented in some of the largest fertilizer companies in the world. Small startup, Indonesia, right? All they did was access the climate data, leveraged AI, built out models that can use the satellite data to identify and tell you if you have 10 acres of land, this 500 square meters is where you have this particular kind of problem. You need to use this much amount of fertilizer or pesticides to solve that problem, instead of buying that same pesticide for 100 acres or 10 acres of land that you had. These kind of ideas can be easily generated and done using AI. Right? Lastly, the kind of trend that we are seeing in terms of impact investment is also in terms of communicating impact. I've told this over and over again. The entire talk I was trying to tell you how to communicate impact. So we're seeing that 40% of all impact investors are also trying to use different methods to identify and measure the impact. So it's not enough for you to go and say, I have impacted 200 families, I have helped 500 women get employment. You need to be able to prove it. Which means that you as a company need to capture the right kind of data. I had funded a project in Maharashtra, in a small village in Maharashtra about 6 years ago, where we were helping them gain access to clean water using solar technology. So we had a technology that basically you can fill water into a plastic bag, 4-liter plastic bag, keep it in the sun. 4 hours, the water, however dirty it is, becomes pure. Because using the sun's rays, it is able to purify the water, and then the family can drink the water from that. And this 4-liter water bag was 100 rupees. Okay? What we told the women is, you buy 1,000 from us, we will sell it to you at 50 rupees, you then resell it for 100 or 102 rupees, and you build your own cooperative society. We had employed some people on the ground. When we went back there after 6 months, during that 6 months, they kept sending us data, saying X amount of people liked it, X amount of people bought it, these were the problems, this is the feedback, so on and so forth. When we went back after 6 months, the villagers were telling us that they haven't got so many products. A lot of this data was fudged. Excel sheet. Anybody can write what they want. They kept sending to us as impact investors the data on an Excel sheet. We didn't have the wherewithal to verify it. This is the problem a lot of impact investors are currently facing, but will no longer face, because they have now started employing companies, methodologies to verify impact. This is also an impact company that you can start, helping international impact investors verify impact on the ground. That is a middleman service that you can offer. Very, very important, right? So some of the entrepreneurs and these are some of the entrepreneurs that we've supported from across the world, right? So this is a company called Baobab. And Baobab basically is a micro-lending company, which currently has about 116 employees, is supporting around, I think the last numbers, this was a few months ago, it's well over 200,000 beneficiaries. They've dispersed $400 million in micro-lending loans, right? Baobab, through our investment and our support, has now raised $120 million. Right? Micro-lending platform delivers impact, is able to communicate the impact. So with Seedstars, that's what we have helped them with. We have a company called Omni Retail. Omni Retail is based out of Nigeria. And Omni Retail, they basically connect retail players and FMCG providers to the market. So they have, again, around 200,000 retailers. 78% of those retailers are women retailers. So women-led businesses. Again, they have been one of the fastest growing Nigerian companies that we've supported. They've raised a lot of funding through the connections and network that we've bought on. In 2013, we met this very interesting gentleman. And it's an e-fishery company. And we had supported him. He was part of our competitions. We had invested in them very early on. Today, they're building a $1.4 billion company. In the 10 years that we started working with them, they've now reached towards $1.4 billion. So our portfolio, this is just a snapshot of our portfolio. I know the screen is very fuzzy. You may not be able to see it. But we have a portfolio across the globe. We work right from Latin America to Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Asia, and Asia Pacific. Like I started my talk before, right? The very first thing that I mentioned was we are not impact investors. We are investors who keep a close eye on impact when we invest. So if you think you're not an impact company, talk to us. We'd like to know you. Maybe you have a company that actually has a hidden impact that we'll help you uncover. Right? With that, we've got 10 minutes on the clock. I've been told that I can take questions. But thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I'm happy to take any questions you have.